Welcome to the show.
What's up, man?
How you doing? How you doing? Welcome to the
Uh,
Crucible. I am Pauly, and we also have.
Emil, what's going on, guys?
How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing great, man.
It's been
It's
a week, hasn't it?
it really has, man. I think both of us. Tonight's show is gonna be a little bit of a deeper one. We've had some deep ones recently. We have some light
We,
ones too,
we had
but
some deep ones. We had some fun ones. We're
yeah,
gonna get back into some fun ones. We're gonna have some other people on in the
yeah,
next coming weeks,
that's right.
which is gonna be really good because there's really endless possibilities for us to deal with as long as we're still allowed to talk.
That's right. Until they ban us. But anyways,
I
guys,
don't see that.
on before we get into it, I just want to mention for anybody who has not yet done it, make sure you sign up for the mailing list. That's going to be on cruciblelive.com. The reason you want to do it is because it gets you entered into win a 5-ounce piece of silver. I got it right here. I'll show you. This awesome piece of poured silver will be up for grabs. Another way to win, you can get on, you can subscribe to the new YouTube channel. The link's going to be in the description to that. That's going to be specifically for the Crucible. So, Pauly and I each have our own respective channels. You can kind of see the logos up in the corner, but we've created one just for the Crucible. You got to get on that one. If you subscribe to it, it gets you a second entry. In addition to that, there's also going to be an Instagram account. Link for that's also in the description. Make sure you sign up.
All that good information is going to be in the description, and I might even have one linked in the chat of this video right now.
All right. I'll do the same.
Definitely check those out. All right, man. I got to start off by just showing you this. It's not even there yet, but look at the date on this bad boy right here.
Well, hey, is that that is the new Napoleon?
Yeah, for those who are not watching, you're just listening. This is from the Scottsdale Mint, and SD Bullion lucked out and got their entire stock. I remember when these went up for like a pre-sale in July.
Yeah.
Our good buddy Sean there, and there wasn't much activity on them then. And turns out SD Bullion got the entire stock.
So is that, I have to ask, is that a frosted background? So it's like a reverse proof finish, right?
It is. It's almost, I wouldn't call it really frosted. It's definitely a matte type finish. Okay. But dude, it's just, did you get any?
I have one coming. It's probably, yeah, that's what I think. And
it's 5 ounces. It's a nice chunk of silver.
Seeing you with your fingers all over it kind of gives me anxiety, but
it does. Well, it's just, if I was a grader, this is how they'd hold it, right?
I know, man. They would ruin it. They would totally ruin it.
Right? Yeah, well, yeah, and from your experience, right?
It's the worst.
But this thing is definitely cool. They're doing 12 different designs in the course of 4 years. So this is the first for 2024. We can expect 2 more into 2024, and they're going to be doing gold versions, which is going to be neat.
2 questions that maybe you know, maybe you don't. Are these like past world leaders, or what's the theme?
The theme is Commander, right? So that's what I'm going to go with. I'm expecting we're going to see a George Washington at some point in time. From there on, I
maybe Alexander.
It's all hit or miss. It's like this gangster series I've got. Started with Al Capone, then it went to Bonnie and Clyde, and then it went to John Dillinger. There's one more in that series, and there's just so many to choose from. Who are they going to choose? And that's kind of a weird series, but really something a lot of people are into. Those murdering people, man, and people get excited for stuff like that. To have, I wouldn't really call it history, but just a beautiful piece of art in your hand. Those are 2-ounce silver coins, but man, they are something else for sure.
So you said there's a gold version. Do we know 1 ounce, quarter ounce, 10th? What are we doing?
I've heard 10th and 1 ounce, and I've also heard 1 ounce versions of this silver coin as well. Okay. I'm going to say, don't quote me on nothing. I only know as much as anybody else. I'm going to say you're not going to really see those until closer, or if not into 2024. Kind of like the Spanish Mint does with those doubloons. We're going to see the 1/10 stallion the beginning of 2024, which the stallion was the 1 ounce version here in 2023. And then we'll see the next 1 ounce version middle 2024, right? And then follow up 2025 with the 1/10 version and so on.
Right on. Those are beautiful, by the way, man. I love the Spanish ones, the
Dude,
doubloons.
that reverse proof is.
That's a good finish,
I'm a
man.
sucker. I'm a sucker for it.
Speaking of being a sucker, now I'm gonna pop this up on
Yeah,
the
that
screen.
was good. That was good. That was a good intro to what we're about to talk about. That was good.
Not pointing fingers enough. All right, let's take a look.
Yeah,
So
dude.
this right here, tell us what this is.
Okay, so this is the New Zealand mints. Um, Trading card coins, right? So they're called mint. You can see them at the top. Those who can't see, this woman is getting ready to unbox. Now, the only reason I know it's a woman because we watched this earlier, and the voice is the voice of a woman. So they're getting ready to unbox them. Um, they're like trading cards, but they're a silver 1 ounce coin, and they
Right.
come in different mintages. Each coin has a different mintage, and there's only so many of each one, so on and so forth. And the big hunt is for the gold, right?
Yeah.
There's also 10 1/10 1/4 ounce gold pieces of these Marvel. Now, before this one, this is the second edition. Before this one, they did a Star Wars, and these things sold out minutes. 8 minutes, I think this one
Yeah.
sold out in
It
maybe
was
10.
pretty instantly.
8 minutes is probably even pushing. It was probably less than that. It took them longer to hit the stopwatch off, you know.
Yeah.
Um, I think
How
they're
about these
cool.
ones? Did these ones sell out that
Eight,
quickly?
8 minutes. Yeah, these are the ones I'm talking about.
Oh, okay.
Eight
So for the
minutes.
Star Wars one, do you know how fast those went?
I don't. I do not. I would have to say about the same time, really.
All right, so we got some color coding going on here. You see the slab has a backfill
Yep.
right around the
Yep.
coin, and so I'm guessing that these mean something. Like every color means something different. Like if you look at this one's just a silver coin. It has Captain America on it, and you can see the
Proof
one
back,
that's a proof. Yeah, is they're all I
obverse.
think proof finish, right? But
Yeah.
here you got this purple
Colorized.
one. Yeah, right,
Yep.
right. The colorized proof, and this purple one actually has it looks like gold ennobling on it, or
Yep.
what would it be
Yep.
called? Gold plating.
Gold
Um,
plating, sure.
right. So my guess is there is some level of rarity to these different versions, right? The purple back versus green back.
Your guess would be 100% correct. That's right. They did if I did the math right, there's a total of 510 possible coins, and they come in different rarities. You have common,
Mm,
uncommon, rare, ultra rare, and then I forget what they call the gold, extremely rare, something like that. We'll get into
okay.
them. We can show them as individuals as we move along here. Uh,
All right. So how
do
about this
you
one?
Yeah, right there it is. Right there it is. So we saw the green in that video of the unboxing. The first coin we saw had that green outer. Those are going to be your common, what they're calling limited mintage, and there's 250 of those. How they break that up, there's 10 different ones you can have. So again just assuming that that's split equally, right, between the 250 mintage as far
So
as
this is not 250 of the Captain America, 250 of Captain
no,
Marvel.
no, 250
Oh,
total.
okay.
250 total.
Interesting. Okay, I wasn't aware of that. That's wild. So that really brings down the number.
Yeah.
Hmm. All right. So then we move on from that one. This one is uncommon.
Your uncommons, your 150s.
So
So it's
pulling
dropping down from there. Yeah.
pulling an orange one would automatically make the value go up
In the collector's world, yes.
in the collector's
Yes.
world. And
In the collector's worlds, yes.
there's no added amount of,
Scarce
silver in
mintage.
them. Right. There's just
No,
a scarce
these are all
mintage.
1 ounce. These are all 1 ounce silver coins.
Okay. All right. So here you have the 50 mintage. And then we would go down to 30, which that's a random number, but okay, 30 mintage. And all right, so here are the purple ones with that gold plating. These are actually pretty nice, like that Spider-Man one in the middle.
And when you, and again, these are coins. And on the obverse of that coin, it was that same gold plating back there as well. It looked great from the video.
So have you seen any of these pop up on eBay or anything like the gold plated ones? What they might be going for?
I have not seen singles on eBay yet. As far as I know, these things are just getting in the hands. So eventually, very, very soon, you might even see unopened boxes that are on pre-sale that somebody had
Hmm.
ordered and bought, and now they want to try and get rid of because they sold out so fast, right? And they're, I
Right.
mean, Marvel is the biggest in the world, and these things are a collector's dream, really.
Would you
I
say
mean, it's got
Marvel
everything.
is bigger than Star Wars?
Yes, I would say that.
I wouldn't disagree with you in this day and age. I think that maybe 15 years ago, I think Star Wars would have had a bigger bigger following, but at this point, I think Marvel's done enough with their movies to where they've beaten down Star Wars hand over fist.
Star and I didn't really follow Star Wars all that well. Marvel
Mhm.
continues to grow.
Right.
Continues to grow. There it is. Mintage of 10.
So there's
So there's
only 10 of these.
10 of those in the whole wide world were put into these randomly in the boxes.
All right.
And
So without, I mean, you kind of know, but let's ask the listeners and the viewers, just if you want to take a stab at what you think the value, and again, with any coin, the value is based on what somebody's willing to pay for it. That's like across the board. That's what it's always going to be.
exactly. Now we know it's a quarter ounce of gold. And without even looking at spot, spot's got to be, let's just call it
It'd be 500.
1900.
So
Yeah.
this would be about $500 in
Be about
gold.
$500 worth of gold there, right?
Right. Right. But would it sell for $500, knowing that there's only 10 of these that exist?
No, it's going to sell for more to the collector, right? I mean, you walk
Exactly.
into this to your coin shop, he's gonna look at it and say, "What the hell is this thing?" And he's gonna offer you spot, if not below spot, for this thing, right?
40% below spot.
Yeah, right.
Yep. So I'm gonna pop up on the screen this right here, and this is an eBay listing. Yes, it is a sold price listing
Yep,
for the number. You can see this is number 1 of 10. So they're individually numbered. I think they're laser etched.
which is really
Individually,
cool.
it is pretty stinking cool.
Yeah,
Individually numbered. This was the first out of these 10. So maybe if you had like the fourth or the eighth out of 10, it might be a little bit less. But the price on this, the sale price, was 25 grand. Right?
25 grand, people, $25,000.
$25,000. You know how much gold you could buy for 25 grand? You can buy, what is that, like 12 and a half ounces
That's
of
12 and a
gold?
half ounces. Yeah,
Yep. Or you can get this 1/4 ounce collector's piece. And that's
maybe
exactly what
more if
this
you're buying
is.
from Costco. Mm,
So, Pauly, I am an auditor. And when I look at a scenario, I try to look at risks. All right.
yes,
So let's talk about some risks here. If I was a big bullion dealer and I placed a massive purchase of these boxes, right, with all these different pieces in them, and I bought them on behalf of my customers, maybe I bought a few for myself too. Would it
sure.
be? Do you think it would be ethical for me to try to fish out which one might actually have the gold in it?
Ethical, no,
Is there any
but
way to stop somebody?
no. In this day and age, there is really no way to stop somebody, and we've chatted about this privately. We kicked around the idea that what if somebody was to start weighing boxes, right? Because you're talking, if there's 2 ounces of silver in each one, plus the weight of the plastic holder, and plus the weight of
Mhm.
everything else that's in there, if you got 50 of these boxes, if there's a piece of gold in one of them, one should weigh a little bit lighter than the rest of them, right?
Right. In
Should,
theory.
in
In theory.
theory.
So
But,
so
but, go on.
if I were New Zealand Mint, I would have thought about that.
You
And
would be. You
the
would
only
have.
way you could really mitigate a weight difference is to pack a little bit of extra weight, like, I don't know, 3/4 of a troy ounce extra weight into the packages that actually do carry the gold. I'm not sure if they did that or not, but if I was New Zealand Mint, that's what I would consider doing. So let's say hypothetically they did do that. Would there be any other way you think? for somebody to fish out whether or not there was gold?
Yes. What if said dealer had some type of tester for testing metals through said box and could actually find out what type of metal is inside of that box, right?
Would you mean like a little device that you would swing on a beach and it beeps when you're looking
Ooh,
for
beep,
when
beep, beep.
yeah.
Yes, definitely one of those. Definitely
All
one of
right.
those. But here's an interesting one that just kind of popped in my head.
Sure.
XRF machine. XRF machine. Could you scan that through that box and through that plastic, or does it have to be just
I
the
almost feel
physical
like it
gold in there?
I almost feel like there has to be nothing in between it. Like
Could you
I don't know. Would
okay,
you
but what
can
if
you
they were doing I mean, are dealers buying slab coins from people? I'm wondering if can you put a slabbed coin inside an XRF machine and
it's a good
scan
point.
what's in it?
I
Because
don't know
I
if
mean, essentially that's all you're putting in there is a slabbed coin and a little bit of cardboard, you know?
all right, if anybody
Unless
in the comments has any experience with XRFs, go ahead and toss it in the chat. Let us know if you think an XRF could take that box and dig through it and
definitely,
determine if
definitely.
it has gold or silver in it. I'm
Yeah, because
curious.
we're just kind of spitballing here. But what you
Yeah,
said as far as a metal detector, yeah, I believe there's certain metal detectors that
they can
you can
discriminate.
hone, yeah,
Yep.
between silver and gold. You know,
Yeah,
if a
and
different tone or pitch that it
mhm,
puts through your headset or however they work, a
yeah,
hundred, you know, I don't know, but maybe
yeah.
someone in the future will know that we chat with. We'll find out.
Maybe we should bring a metal detectorist on the show.
Ain't a bad idea. Ain't a bad idea.
So,
So yeah, I mean, yeah, there's a lot of possibilities.
all
It's
right,
not possible.
right, and the point, the reason we bring this up, and it's so timely right now. I want to
Yeah,
show
for
this
sure.
image. This was shared with me by somebody, and I don't even know who this person is. I'm throwing the name up, and again, this is not an accusation. We don't know the person. We don't know anything about him, and perhaps this was just luck of the draw. But
Could
my
have been.
understanding is that this person is a big bullion dealer who has a direct line to New Zealand Mint. Means that
Direct line to New Zealand Mint.
they're a buyer from New Zealand Mint. So they were shipped a large quantity of these pieces, and clearly the person sells to other people within
Yes.
the community. But lo and behold, he ripped a few and just happened to rip a gold one. And again, no accusation because I don't know. Like I don't know this guy, but what are the odds? And either he's really lucky and that's fantastic, or he just made himself a $25,000 payday, and one of his buyers could have potentially received that and now will not.
100%. 100%. You're right. And this is just so this is a Facebook posting. We left the actual site name out of it, but this is his name. This is information. It's fine. Again, there's no accusations, but this is why we rip chasing the grail.
Right.
There's a lot of speculation, and that's fair. All we have is a picture, and that's it. We have a picture. We know he's a big dealer, and we
Yep.
know that there's ways that you can do this. And that's my only concern when you're dealing with people online or people you really don't know all that well. There
Hmm.
is a greed factor.
Yep.
There is
Yep.
definitely a greed factor. Now, that's not taking away anything from the rest of the trading coins that are in this series whatsoever, except the fact that this is what people are going for. So when you see a picture like this, 2 to 3 to 4, even a week prior to you even receiving your boxes that you bought, you already know that 1 of 10 is gone. Is
Bingo.
gone.
And that's
And
exactly it right there, Paulie, is that this was posted before any non-dealer had these in hand.
100%. And there's a lot of people that I know that bought these from quote unquote dealers on pre-sales. And I'm not saying any of them isn't trusting, but with seeing something like that and knowing how much a Star Wars sold for and knowing that Marvel is Marvel, don't put it past them. I know these things are really, really tough to get from New Zealand Mint. And the reason they sell out so fast is because they are pre-allocated to some big dealers,
Mhm.
and it's a big piece of the pie that gets taken out before you and I get a chance to go on the website and purchase them, because something like this, I wouldn't even want to be on the website I'm assuming it crashed multiple times for
Oh,
people,
for
right?
sure. I mean, and how many would they have even had left? Because most of them were allocated to dealers.
Exactly. Exactly. Um,
Yeah.
so it's, again, I can, it's not that I want to compare them to something like a Vault Box or an Ultra Break or something like that. The only reason I'm comparing them to that is because I've tried 4 times now to get a Vault Box. I know there's other websites that I can go to and get them other than vaultbox.com, because they sell so many to these other dealers, and these other dealers can put them on their website, and they sell to so many people on Whatnot that the day of, you can have them ripped open right there on Whatnot, but you're not going to be paying the price that you would get them from Vault Box. That's my
Right.
only issue. I think they're a really great idea for collectors. I honestly do, and that's why I continue to talk about them. What I don't like is how they go about getting them to the collectors. And that's the way it's been, and that's the way
So
it's going to continue, because New Zealand Mint wants to get rid of their stock, knowing that they can do it quicker by selling to different dealers, or Vault Box, knowing that they can sell 50 to one guy and Whatnot and another 25 to some guy on Whatnot, rather than me buying 1 or 2, right?
right. And you know,
Big sales.
there's before we get off this topic, there's one more thought to this. Talking about the website itself. So you're talking about New Zealand Mint, and I mean, we've had this conversation, I think, about the U.S. Mint too. Anytime
Sure.
there's a big item that you know is going to do well, you know it's going to sell out, and it's going to carry a big premium once it's sold out. What you typically find is there are people who have these computer programs with, it's basically a bot that,
Mm-hmm.
you know, it has 100 different accounts and it's trying to force its way in, meanwhile muscling everybody else out of the queue to purchase.
Mm-hmm.
So you end up, you know, like me, I can't even tell you how many times I've been bumped out of the US Mint's website while trying to purchase on a release date. Happens all the
Yeah.
time. But then you have somebody else who ends up with like 45 of them when the limit is 1 per household. It makes you wonder. Actually, you don't wonder. You know exactly what that is.
Yeah.
That's a
Right.
program.
Right.
So
And that's actually
yeah.
something that I'm doing live on my own personal channel. Is the US Mint's next big hurrah is the reverse
Mhm.
proofs, first time ever done, the Morgan and Peace dollar, and I want to see how that website runs. I've
Mm.
been there for the, not live, but I've been there for the uncirculated release and the proof release, and they have what they call now is a waiting room, and you
Wow.
log in, and there's no just trying to click and get booted out. Click, you get put in a queue, and it tells you how long your wait is, and it was pretty smooth as far as that goes.
You
But
know,
I want to test it live myself.
you know who started that?
Who's that?
The British Royal Mint.
Did they?
Because they were doing that about 2 years ago. I was trying to buy, I think it was Una and the Lion or something like that,
Okay.
and I was put in a queue, and I was like number 120 something, and they sold out before I got. I think they
Oh,
sold it
okay.
when I got to
Really?
like 60 or something. They sold out, but it was
All
pretty
gone.
interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyways, so what are we talking about today?
Well, within the title, it says real life tragedies. Um, I had big a big thing happened to our one of our family members this past Saturday. But I'm going to get into that one, kind of the last story I want to talk about. But how real life tragedies can affect you and many's around you, and then makes you think completely differently on life, right? Because we don't control it. Like, we control our day-to-day actions, but the man upstairs controls all the rest, and we don't know when that hourglass is, that last chunk of sand is gone, man. We
Right.
don't know. Our lives are so short here, and some, they just don't get to live as long as they should, they should, right?
Yeah.
So, first story I want to get into, and then kind of kick it to you, is almost 25 years ago. I was at my friend's house, and 25 years, so I was 13, 14, maybe 15 years old, however old I was. And my friend's mom wanted to go out that night. She's 37 years old, single mom, mother of 3. And that that house, she was like a second mother to me, right? And it was one of those houses that was, you went there. I call it a flop house, right? I don't know you growing up, if you ever had a friend like that, or a place like that you could call that this woman would take you in no matter what, right?
Right.
If anything went wrong, she was loving, caring, worked hard for her family, and just loved everybody around, loved being part of it, right? The kids coming over, hanging out, telling all the stories from school, basketball in the front yard. She was a great woman. Obviously, you know where I'm going with this story. So she wanted to go out with a friend that night. A friend was having a hard time, and they were going to go, and she never had a chance to go out and do anything on her own because of the kids growing up. I think the oldest, which I'm still friends with today, we play softball together during the summer. He didn't have nothing going on, and we were hanging out there, but he had a younger brother that, couldn't take care of himself. And we decided, yeah, we're not going nowhere doing nothing. We'll watch him. I'm trying not to use names the best I can. Yeah, we'll watch him. You go out, have a good time, whatever. See you when you get back. We might have said some other stuff about dudes or whatever. Don't bring no dude home, or, stuff like that. Right.
Yeah.
And she was your typical 80s chick. She had that hairdo, you know what I'm talking about, with the curled bangs and hairspray everywhere.
Frizzy,
and real skinny thing. 37 years old, man. They went out that night. They went to a bar in a little town, and on their ride home, they took the back ways out of town just to stay on the up and up. The driver probably had a little bit too much to drink, and they got on a road that they didn't know. And going down this road, my brother, actually, a brother and a bunch of his friends on that same road, on the same intersection, about lost all their lives.
Whoa.
The woman was driving, so I'm gonna do the best I can. The road kind of goes like this, and then turns, and then turns. Why it makes that turn is there's a river there. And the guardrails, I guess they just didn't come out far enough.
Gotcha.
And it was a foggy night, and she was probably doing a little bit too fast, and she had been drinking. And they hit that guardrail. Over the guardrail they went, about, I would say, a 20-foot drop.
Oh my gosh.
And they're in a little S10 pickup. This is 1999, October of 99. Truck flipped over on its top. The driver was able to get out, and mind you, this is a back road, rural area, and there's not many houses around. So how far she went was quite a ways after coming to her own and figuring out, well, what the hell just happened. And her friend isn't responding. She gets to a house. Really, really long story, kind of cut a little bit short, is Shelly was her name. When that truck flipped over, there was a rock in the middle of that river, and her side of the truck hit that rock through the roof and bumped her in the head. And she drowned in that pickup because she was knocked unconscious. And her friend didn't have enough sense to try and help her because of probably just drunken, just whatever.
Right.
And maybe if she was flipped over, rolled out of there, tried anything, she drowned in that pickup from the time that girl went to a house and somebody come back. And by the time it was all said and done, she was dead on arrival when anybody of emergency showed up. And that was a life that I answered the phone that morning. I answered the phone. It was 2:32 in the morning, and it was her sister. So my friend's aunt calling, and she's hysterical as can be. And I'm wondering what's going on, and where's, I could say his name. Where is he? Where is he? I say, he's right here. What's going on? And I said, you're going to want to take this call, man. It's something to do with your mother. And the phone went through the front window. And that's where that story ends. It was a heartbreaker for a lot of people in that little town, because, like I said, she was a second mother to a lot of people,
right.
A lot of people. And she's buried right up the road from me. And I stop and say hello as often as I can, because I really wish she was around still today. I really do, to see she could see her sons grow, all that stuff. I mean, again, this stuff happens every day to people, every day. But when it happens to you, and then still this many years for me, that you're stopping at a cemetery talking to somebody that's hopefully listening still.
Right.
It's a tough situation. It really is.
Yeah. And as a disclaimer, regarding the sensitivity of tragedies, that this is probably one of the few scenarios where, when you're talking about stuff like this, it's not any kind of a competition or a one up.
No,
If anything, it's more so to share and empathize, because I think our listeners, like you said, it can happen to anybody, and it does happen
every
to.
day, every
Yeah.
day, right now.
So, I mean, personally, I have a kind of bit of guilt in discussing tragedies, with myself, because
Sure.
I've
Okay.
actually been fortunate enough to not have had my life crushed by one. Again, God forbid it doesn't happen, at least in the foreseeable future. But I've been fortunate, but I have been witness to the tragedies of others. Obviously, everybody I think that's watching this has lived through 9/11, so we all remember that, and
Yeah.
we've talked about that a few times. But in a past life, probably about, I don't know, 10, 15 years ago, I used to work on a children's cancer unit, and the experiences
Wow.
there were across the board. I was on that cancer unit for maybe 2 years, maybe three, and you would see some success stories. I'll tell you one thing about children is they're the most resilient little creatures ever.
Yeah. Right. Aren't
And
they?
when a child is struck with cancer, um, what you see in them is you still see that childlike optimism. They're not like adult cancer patients that they've already experienced the world, and it's all dark and dismal and grim. So a lot of times you'll see a child and they just want to be a kid. Like, they want to play, they want to watch TV, they want to ride around on the unit on these little scooters and stuff like that. That's all they want, is just to have fun. And oh yeah, I also have cancer, so I need to get my blood drawn or something like that. So,
Yeah.
but again, within that, there would very often be tragedies. There were some patients that didn't make it, and it hurt. Like, it hurt to see that, because you grow close with the family, you grow close with the children,
Sure.
and to see them go through that suffering, to see that slow decline. I think one thing is that you can take lessons learned from that. There's very often we tend to overlook how fortunate we are in the moment, the positive things that we do have going on in our life, whether it's our own health or the health of the people we care about. It could be anything. But I feel that, having lived through those kinds of things, it's important to recognize the positives in our life, that we're not in that moment suffering a tragedy. Also, to think about how those experiences can positively affect the relationships in your life, like currently in your life. All the stuff that didn't matter before, all of a
Sure.
sudden, you know, those things matter. Like, important things start to matter.
Sure. 100%.
Yeah.
100%. It's it's a life-changing thing. I mean, and again, we're talking about not comparing or not doing this. I don't know if something like that I could put myself through to work with around children like that. I know it'd be a great, you're helping them, but just those other feelings of getting to know them and
Oh yeah.
knowing that they kind of know what's going on, but has
Yeah.
it really sunk into them yet? Why them? Why them?
Oh
Right?
yeah, for sure. And I'll tell you what, it made me appreciate the health that my kids have. And it made me not take it for
100%.
granted. You know, kind of on that topic, it's interesting how some people, like, again, discussing how people deal with the tragedies. Like, if you look at anybody who experienced that tragedy of your friend, or your friend's mother that you mentioned,
Yeah.
there's different angles they could take. Some of them recluse and they go through about a depression. Some of them might turn to anger or drugs, or maybe they go into
Hmm.
activism against drunk drivers, or maybe they even go to comedy. Like, you look at Some of the
Sure.
biggest comedians in the world,
Dude,
they're
are just
comedians.
depressed.
Yeah, they're so
Just
depressed, and that's how
depressed.
they cope. That's how they cope.
And they ultimately end their lives way too early because there's no you don't know that they're upset because all you see them is that person making people laugh. You know,
Yeah,
musicians same way. They're out there rocking and rolling, making music, and you hear one hung themselves in a damn Detroit hotel room.
yeah,
It's insane,
yep,
insane. And they're just what goes on through the human brain at that point in time is something that I hope I never have to experience in my own life, thinking this is it, that this is all I have left. Is it's just a tough one, to even think about.
yeah,
It really is.
yeah. So I mean, it goes on to you got to really think about how even some tragedies resonate with people more than others, and this is kind of let's take a wider angle shot of the world right now. There's some stuff going on. There's some
Sure.
stuff going on
Sure.
that is pulling people's emotions in different directions, and some people are conflicted as to what the real tragedy is here. But it's interesting how, again, like let's say, I'm not going to side one way or another, but just if you think about something like the war in the Middle East that's currently happening right now, but there are also uh, equally sized attacks and wars and things like that that happen in Africa on a daily basis.
Mm-hmm.
So if you think
Mm-hmm.
about why is it that people are drawn to one but not the other,
It,
it's sorry, go ahead.
no, I'm just saying it's just how it is. Well, yeah, exactly. Why is that important? Why is that important for news coverage here in the States? Is it because yes, Americans have been killed there, and
Yeah,
is it because there's nothing to cover for news? It just why, right? Why
yeah.
is this more important than, like you said, something going on in Africa?
Right. Yeah, there I mean, there's certainly a media influence in that, but,
Yeah.
I mean, not to say that any one tragedy is greater or worse than the other. They're all tragic, but it's just interesting how and I was talking to my wife the other day about how about a year and a half ago, and you know this quite well. A year and a half ago, I was ready to pack my bags and take up
Yes.
arms and go and fight in a country that is not my country, and has nothing to do with me. And
Got them somewhere.
I have no ties to that country whatsoever. But I was going to go and fight for a people that they're not my people. Like my people they're in that house right over
Yeah.
there. They're
Yeah.
in my house. Right, those are my people.
Yeah.
I was willing to potentially give my life for strangers versus then live my life for my family. So it
Mm-hmm.
was interesting how the media had influenced me to buy into a tragedy that was occurring. So I mean, again, not to say that one tragedy is not worth dying over or not
Mm-hmm.
worth fighting for. It's
That's
just
right.
interesting how easily influenced I was in the moment.
How it affected you in that moment, right?
All right,
You were ready to roll.
I was, yeah. So it calls to question the difference between a real tragedy versus a perceived tragedy, like what you had mentioned with your friend's mother. I would say that's a real tragedy, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
somebody who's in your life and is close to you could honestly, you said it was like the neighborhood's mom,
Yeah.
or the mom of all your friends. So that's basically family, right?
Exactly.
That's
Exactly.
top tier tragedy. You know,
Exactly.
a step down from that might be somebody you know of, right? Somebody that's
All right.
not necessarily close, but an acquaintance, maybe a coworker. It hurts and it sucks, you know.
That's 100% right. That's 100% right. Um, or also, I don't know if I mean, there's people out there that watch or listen or even follow on Instagram, whatever. I do have a lot of kids, but what I haven't ever really talked about much is I'm also a stepdad, but I don't
Mhm.
consider myself a stepdad. I consider myself their dad. And shout out to anybody that's either a stepdad or stepmother. I know what you're
Right.
going through. I've without getting into it, the only piece of advice I give somebody who is just getting into a relationship like that and caring for other kids other than your own or you don't have any is give them their space, do not pressure, and show them the same love you would show any one of your own kids, or if that was your own child, in fact. And it is very, very tough. It is very, very tough. And they will do things that you wouldn't think a kid would ever think about doing to try and get you out of their life. And ultimately, it ends well, right? It ends very well in the situation that I'm in. And there is a lot of extras that come with that. They have a whole nother family. They have a whole nother side of their family, which in return I take in as part of my family, right? Their cousin was just killed in a terrible car accident. 20 years old. 20 years old, coming home from the Army. She graduated high school in 2021, joined the U.S. Army, military police. Coming home to see her brother's child play a sporting event from Kentucky. Also, the same 20-year-old was helping a friend she met in the Army get out of a toxic relationship. Oof. Abusive, terrible, terrible things, right? And I'm speaking about this. I knew this girl for quite a few years. She's been in my house. She spent the night with the kids and all this stuff. And it's not like I didn't know her, right? She was an important part of my life, just like anybody else. And that friend came along with her for that ride, coming home. Said, let's get out of here. I'm going to be gone for the weekend, 4 or 5 days. Going to go up north. Sure, come on. She hydroplaned on I-71 in Kentucky, like exit 63, and it just so happened a semi with a blown tire was parked off to the side of the road, and she hydroplaned just enough to where her vehicle happened to slide, doing, again, probably a little bit too fast for the speed, for the conditions of the road, and slammed into the back of that semi trailer, and she was instantly killed, and her passenger died on the way to the hospital. She had a puppy. The dog survived, and they're actually still looking for the dog. The police officers on the scene could not get the dog to come to them, and they are actively trying to find this puppy dog and get it back to her mother. Thing about when you are in the military, and I didn't know this, you might know this or did know this, when something like that happens, and actually I'm going to talk about this first. There's an app out there called Life 360.
Right.
It is an app that allows you to, kind of like a Find My Phone if you have an iPhone, it allows you to add users as you see fit into your little group. And that app shows you where they are via their GPS in their phone, and it actually shows you how fast they're traveling, and it shows you if they're just sitting on inside their house. It shows little emojis sitting on a couch or whatever. This app, you know what a push notification is?
Yep.
So within any apps, like my trail cameras pushes says, hey, you got a picture on your trail camera. Well, this app actually sends text messages. And at 12:04 a.m. Saturday morning, her mother got a text message from that app saying irregular activity on so-and-so's phone. Phone could have been dropped. Phone could have been thrown. Contact this person and just make sure they're okay. Text message, phone calls, 2 phone calls, nothing. She opens up the app and just sees that phone is just not moving. It's on. It shows her exactly where she's at, but it's just not moving. Right? It's just not moving.
Wow.
And she sat there and watched that phone and waited for a text message and waited for a phone call, and then she got a knock on her door. about an hour and a half later, and it was the Michigan State Police.
Wow.
And at that time, she didn't think anything was wrong. Her husband is a deer hunter, and she thought maybe he did something illegal. And that's why the cops were there, because the police asked for her husband. And that's the first thing she thought of. What did he do? And it wasn't that. Those officers let her know that her daughter had been killed in a car accident. And that was Saturday morning. She did not get to see her daughter, I believe, yesterday. Yesterday was the first time she got to see her since the accident. And this is what I was leading to. I did not know this. The U.S. government had to sign off on her, had to release her body to her mother, because she is in fact owned by the U.S. government, being in the Army. And that really, and her mom understood, but it really hurt her. It hurt her bad. It hurt her bad. And like I said, she understood, but just that extra waiting time, man. And just, what that experience, being 40 years old, dealing with that same situation when I was younger, and then watching my kids, that's what, she was taken too young. I mean, that makes sense to everybody. But
Right.
to see my kids and to hold them, they're crying, to have to hold it together for them. I've been a flake on a lot of Instagram groups, which at that point it didn't matter to me. I actually today sent a message to a couple of them saying, look, here's what's going on. I'm not sick. This is actually what happened, and I'll be back to normal shortly. But to have to see your own kids go through that, you don't want it. Nobody wants it. And again, this isn't taken away from anybody else's tragic accident, because there's a lot of military families out there that their own kids don't come home, and it's terrible. And have to go through it is, I'm just getting a taste of it, right? Just a taste of it. I don't know what much more to say. Is that I was strong for sure, because that's what the kids needed. That they needed someone strong. The wife needed somebody strong. And just now it feels like it's my time to have whatever, a tear run down your cheek, and just be thankful I stayed strong for them, and just breathe a little bit, just breathe, and let's move past it. The funeral Saturday, and that's going to be another rough day.
Yeah.
And we'll move on, but we're not going to move on without her. It's just, we're gonna, the pain is gonna move on, right?
Yeah. The loss of life is always tragic, but I think more so when it's somebody who's young and still has their whole life ahead of them.
It's
that
not
never
fair.
makes it easy. No,
it's not fair, but you can't, is it, I mean, you can't compare it to anything else. This is life. This is life. We control our day-to-day activities the best we can, as I said, starting this segment off. But ultimately, we don't know.
Yeah. And, in a tragedy, there's often very little that you can do to remedy it. It just needs to run its course. When we,
and that's right.
When we don't allow ourselves to go through, the steps of coping, it actually lingers longer. So, yeah, you're a strong man. I give you that, Paulie.
Dealing with, all the alcohol issues, and that was a big thing. Talking to him is, look, I know drinking's going to make things seem a lot easier, because I've been there. Believe me, but it doesn't change anything. It doesn't change anything after the fact. So just watch yourself. Don't overdo it, because it's alcohol's a downer, and you're already down. You might feel good now, but after about 15 of them, you ain't gonna feel so good. That downer is going to put you in places you don't want to be, and you're going to do things that you would never really do.
For sure.
And you don't want that.
It's a slippery slope,
That's right.
It becomes
right.
What do they call it? Chasing the white dragon or something like that. But that's
Yeah.
with any numbing agent, you like the way it feels in the moment, and then you just want to recapture it. So you end
Yep.
up in a hole.
Yep.
But something that I've found, and I've gone through, again, not tragedies to the extent that you've experienced, but some. I'll give you one. When I was in the Marine Corps, there was one pilot. Um, I wasn't close with him. There was a couple pilots that I was very close with, but this one, it was one that I was very well acquainted with. We were friends at best. Uh, there was one day when I was launching his aircraft out. I was part of the ground crew, and launched his aircraft out. He went out to Fallujah and Ramadi, and he was running missions out there. We worked on attack helicopters, so he was like in the thick of it. Um, but said hi to him that morning. Tapped his bird on the side as it was getting ready to take off, and didn't think twice of it.
Sure.
Uh, Come to find out about 2 hours in that he'd been struck. He'd been hit with a stray AK round, and it wasn't pretty. I give you that. The angle and the way that it hit him was terminal. So when he came back, then obviously we went through the normal steps of recovering the aircraft and bringing him in and everything. Finding out later, he was a father of several young children, and he was a younger guy. He had to be, I don't know, 38, 40 maybe at most. But a wonderful guy. We ended up naming the airfield after him out there in
Cool.
Iraq. Yeah, but it's just little things like that. Again, it brings it back to appreciating what we do have. Appreciating that. I get to be there for my children as they grow up.
Yeah. 100%.
I get to experience them growing up, and their first date, their when they get married, when they graduate high school, not in that order, but you know what I mean, like
right.
things like that. Like
Right.
you get to be there for that, and it makes you. It's almost like without the bad, sometimes you don't appreciate the good. Um, and that's not to justify that bad should happen in anyone's life or everyone's life, but just recognizing that those ebbs make you really appreciate the flows when everything's going great. But I think there's also the almost like a hint of when's the next bad thing going to happen.
Yeah. Right.
How's it that my life is going so good right now? Let me just hold my breath because
Yeah.
I know something
Yeah.
bad's
No
about to
doubt.
happen.
No doubt.
So it's
I've
tough.
I've
It's
been
tough.
there.
It's tough balancing all that and still being optimistic when you've been through some stuff.
No doubt, man. No doubt. It's it was great to talk about it because again, you and I chat once in a while. We try our best not to chat so that we can have some good actual conversations here.
Of course.
But it was a lot, and then to stay at work, and I kept that from a couple of the guys, but the guys I work with every day, I just want to say, hey, just watch me. Just I'm fine, but just keep an eye on me. Make sure
Of
you don't
course.
see me do something stupid or about to do something stupid, because I do got a lot of stuff going through my head.
Of
And
course.
they said, yeah, dude, we got you. Just do what you got to do, which is cool. It's cool to work with, be within like a brotherhood like that, is where they got your back 200% at all times.
Yeah.
It's good to know. It's good to have people like that in your life.
That's good, man.
So yeah, man. I think that was that's all I'm looking forward to sharing this week on the tragedies of real life and going forward. Let's get
it takes a lot of strength to be able to share something that's so fresh, a wound that's still open. So,
to strangers, to
Paulie,
anybody listening, to anybody
yeah,
watching. This is really, really tough, and I'm
yeah,
not looking for sympathy. I'm not looking for I'm sorry's.
no,
I'm sharing a story, and hopefully it helps someone, right? It doesn't matter if it's the whole stepdad thing, or stepmom thing. Take some of that, just keep doing what you're doing. The kids will eventually come around, and just do not force yourself on them. That's the worst thing you can possibly do, because ultimately you're working to be that child's parent, right? That's what you want to be, and it will happen. It will happen. You just have to you have to work, and this is life. You got to work. It ain't easy.
Yeah. Well, Pauly, thank you for sharing everything you did tonight. I got a lot of respect for you, man. That's
and like we said at the beginning, this isn't a competition by any means. Doesn't matter if it's a show competition or we're talking about a competition between stories. The stuff you shared is stuff I've never been through, and I'm sure a lot of people listening haven't been through. And thank you for sharing that, because that's stuff that we live with, man. That we lay our head down at night and said, we had a good day today.
Yeah. It makes you what you are, you know?
Yeah, 100%.
So, all right. On that, I want to remind everybody, guys, make sure you sign up for that email list.
Those links.
That's going to be on
Hit those links. Get that email list.
Check the rest of the links. And I guess we'll see you next week.
We definitely will, right here.
All right, right here on the Crucible.